G'day peeps. Just a few words this morning regarding the image of what I said was God yesterday in the DMT trip. Somebody sent a comment in and said, does that mean now that you believe in God? So I thought I'd do a little bit of a discourse on that. In a word, no. I don't like to even use the word believe. It's unavoidable on many occasions, but I want to know. And how I'm going to know is by the acquisition of self-knowledge. I'm going to be experience something. And even when we experience something, there's no definitive way of assessing whether that was a reality. Okay, so I saw what seemed to me to be God reclining in the clouds. But you see, that was the first perception, because this is what we've been told in the Christian world, that God's in the sky. And we've all seen images and films of God in the sky. Usually, like a torso shot or reclining, and, big, long, flowing, enormous beard and hair and everything. And so, this thing never spoke to me. And nothing told me that I'm God, I created all this. No, I just looked up in the sky and went, holy fuck, must be God. But also could have been Socrates. Could have been Plato, could have been Santa Claus on his day off. It was the image made out of cloud, absolutely beautifully depicted. It's not like, it's kind of like, looks like God, or my imagination's getting carried away with me. Absolutely, it was a picture as if somebody painted it in white. And the face never changed. It was a pleasant aura, just gazing upon the world, not necessarily at me. I never felt that. And when I was distracted about other things, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, looked back up in the sky, still there. The exact same thing. How does that work? I was listening to Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell last night, and they were talking about DMT. And Duncan Trussell said, the weird thing about DMT, well, one of the myriad of weird things about DMT is when you see some crazy fucked up shit, and then you look away and you're distracted, and then you look back, it's still there. And so it tells you that it's a reality. And everything around, all the buildings, they were always there, they were always the same, this cartoon stuff, all the cliffs and everything were going like this, all the sand's going like this, the sky's all beautiful colours and everything. And so, like I say, it's like this world, only it's as an overlay of a hologram of some sort. And I remember looking at that image I'm trying to feel something. I've heard about people saying that they feel great emotion whilst on DMT. The only emotion that I felt was astonishment. Almost painful, unbelievable, incredible astonishment. Which, if you was there for, say, like an hour, I could imagine that would be pretty draining. So, how has that trip moved me? Did it move me in a spiritual way? Not at all. Another one of my viewers said that DMT isn't an entheogen, and so therefore you can't really have any real mystical experiences on it due to the molecular structure of it. And he's wrote quite a long discourse on this, but he's the sort of guy that removes all of his comments within an hour or so I don't know whether it's going to be there. You know who I'm talking about. Leave them there, for goodness sake, for the benefit of mankind. So anyway, it was quite interesting, that comment. And so it hasn't given me anything spiritual. It's not made me feel any different about this world. It's allowed me to see that in certain conditions, you can see an overlay, a particular overlay. There's probably a gazillion overlays, but Guy saw the same thing. He was seeing all the same stuff. So it appears that with that amount of DMT, you go to that particular place. Maybe if I had, double or 3 times, then I would just go boof out into space, and I'd be in a completely different world. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to experience these sort of things, because I do intend to take more DMT. Not for a few days at least, until I've assimilated this one. But I look at this world now, and you just have to laugh. And all the buildings that I'm looking at out of my window, I'm just picturing them like this Lego stuff. There's nothing you can make of it. I mean, it's pointless in trying, but of course the human mind does. But one thing that I could have some sort of a mini discourse on is how that so-called God thing has affected me. And I can say not in the slightest. I don't feel religious. I've not found God. I just saw something that, it was a bearded bloke made out of clouds, and like I say, it could have been Socrates, Plato, Santa Claus, or any other old bloke in the sky who was completely relaxed and content with himself. Kind of like with his legs crossed, and just like, reclining and looking out over the world. Content. And so it's really, really curious. So I've been looking on the internet for something which I could copy and paste to give you some level of indication, but there's just so much bullshit on the net. It's unbelievable. Stupid Photoshop pictures, and nothing, absolutely nothing came close to what I saw. And so I'll just leave it to your imagination. But one more time, if I can just it was quite a blue sky, as you saw, and the clouds, for the better part, were streaky and very thin, and this gave rise to the lines of magenta and green and yellows going through them like this. But there were a few fluffy, regular clouds, and this is where this this image was, and it stayed that position in the sky for this whole 20 minutes for the duration of the trip, and it never changed from my perception or recollection. Recollection? What the fuck? I think that's the word, isn't it? Recollection. Recollection. It should be a word. I'll have to write to the fucking people that compile dictionaries. So, okay, just to settle that one. I'm not going to be wearing a crucifix. I'm not going to be praying to Jesus. Whatever that thing was up in the clouds, it's got some sort of relationship to the Bible, evidently. This is the main thing I wanted to convey in this video, because where did that come from? God's in the sky. God's looking at you. You better do the shit he says. And his 10 commandments that he gave Moses. These people must have been doing DMT, and I've listened to many people speaking about the Bible in relation to psychedelics and entheogens, because there's so many things that can give us these incredible, bizarre experiences. And when you read the book of Revelation, you see that shit that's going on. This chariot flying through the sky, and it's got 7 heads and 12 horns and all this business. What is all that about? It can't be a literal thing. you know, you look for the symbolism in it, and the symbolism doesn't even work. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. But just in some crazy, bizarre DMT experience, somebody's seen something that they couldn't quite work out, and they wrote it down the best they could, you see. This is where it all falls down. We can only do the best we can, and that is very, very limited and poor. And so whatever we see in the Bible, I'm reckoning that it's the best anybody could absolutely bring from any of their psychedelic trips. And so when we have this notion of this God up in the sky, I'm figuring, well, Guy saw it, I saw it, how many other millions of people have seen it? And so if people were seeing it 2,000 years ago, sure, there he is, that bearded bloke. He must have built all this. We can't do it, you know. So there you have it. Let's write some books about it. Problem solved. We know where it all came from now. I think that'll be it, fellas and gals. I don't know how much more inspiration I'm going to be having. It's kind of like, it's different to shrooms. Shrooms, they put you in touch with yourself in an earthly way, that all nature is you, and it's kind of like you're God because you think you've created it, or you know, that's the sort of, did I create this? Am I this? Are you me? You know, it's all this sort of thing in shrooms, and when you've had them, then you never forget that. And you look at a flower and a blade of grass and a tree and some bark on a tree and a leaf, and you've got so much affection for it. It really is a tremendous humanising thing. Gets you involved with yourself and it. And Lord knows, I can't help speculate that this is why these fuckers banned this. They want us involved in that bullshit out there, instead of the real stuff that gives you a connection and gives you values and beautiful emotions and love, respect, admiration, all of these marvellous attributes of the human being. That's what it gives you. DMT, it just gave me an experience which is not going to enhance me as a human being. It's not going to enhance the way I look at the world. It's not going to enhance any love or empathy I've got for mankind. It was just a cartoon world with crazy shit going on. There you have it.